Hello my friends, welcome to my channel, The Wiggles Project. My name is Jennifer Sullivan and I was diagnosed with Young Onset Parkinson's disease when I was 38 years old. I am now 45. On this channel I will be sharing with you my journey with Parkinson's disease and all of the highs and lows that come with it, along with some tips and wisdom that will hopefully help you if you are on a similar journey. And by doing so, I hope to raise awareness of Parkinson's disease, to document my journey, as well as my progression with the disease. But most importantly, I'm hoping to create a unique online forum for the Parkinson's community to come together. If you would like to support the Wiggles Project and the content that I am creating, check out my website, thewigglesproject.com. I've got some awesome merchandise on there. I will put both links in the description down below. Please do check them out. And of course, please hit subscribe to this channel. In today's video, I would like to share with you how I was diagnosed and what my experience was like going through that process. Each of us have our own story for sure. Mine ended up being a little bit more complicated, but I'd like to share that with you, and here it is. The signs were there, but they were subtle. My left toes, they wouldn't wiggle as easily as my toes on my right foot. And this led me to have a strange walk where I slightly would have like a foot drag, just ever so slightly. And unless you knew me or if you looked really closely, it would be hard to pick up on. And I wasn't swinging my left arm unless I focused on it when I was walking. My handwriting, which had always been just big and swoopy and beautiful, became really, really tiny and messy. And as many of us do nowadays, I looked up my symptoms online and Parkinson's was one of the possibilities, but I clung to everything that I could that said, no, it's not Parkinson's. So just to speak to the subtlety of the symptoms and how hard they are to really pick up on, I'd say about 2 years before the bigger symptoms started to surface, which would be like the dragging foot, my handwriting, that stuff, before those came to light, just in the morning time, I had just ever so subtle of a tremor in my left hand, and it was only when I did that morning, stretch. And that was it, it was just it was only when my arms were reaching out in that dramatic stretching kind of way, but I had just the tiniest tremor. And I ignored it. It was just in the morning and nothing else seemed to really be wrong. There might be an odd thing here or there, but you don't experience that and instantly go towards Parkinson's disease, especially when you're in your 30s. So it first came about with the foot dragging. A customer of mine who was sitting at the bar had asked me if I noticed that my left foot was dragging a little bit. And yes, of course I had noticed, but I didn't want to talk about it really. So I had a bunch of really great excuses like, oh, these shoes are hurting my feet, and I'm just tired or whatever. But I had excuses just to kind of gloss over it and just move on. I didn't want to talk about it, but I knew something was wrong with me. During my first year of business, I desperately tried to hide my symptoms that were becoming more and more present. And I put on an excellent smiley show. Oh, everything's good. Don't worry about it. All is good. What can I get for you? And every time I'd go to reach to, pull the tap handle to pour a beer, my hand was just like, ugh. And the customers, it was interesting because some people who I was closer to would ask, some of them wouldn't, and then complete strangers who'd come into the restaurant and be like, what's wrong with you? Just come right out and be blunt. For me, I thought maybe I had just a really mild stroke. The possibility of a stroke just made the most sense to me, and it didn't seem too far-fetched. It was just one half of my body. It was really mild, and I thought, maybe something happened to me in my sleep. At the time, I was drinking all of the time. Anyone who's been in the restaurant business knows how that goes. I smoked cigarettes, coffee, and then the stress from just opening up this new business, that was very real. So that made more sense to me than anything else that I had read with my symptoms. What I decided to do first was I went to a podiatrist because My left toes, I couldn't move them as well as I could my right, so I'm gonna start with a foot guy. He referred me to a woman to do a nerve conduction study, and he also referred me to a neurologist. So I go to see the neurologist, and he has me do some standard, toe tapping, finger tapping, walking around the office and observing all of these different things that I am able to do or I'm not able to do. And like definitely I couldn't tap my left foot as fast as I could my right, and it's the same still, like with the finger tapping. I mean, it's amazing. Like, this is not something that you do on your own, to even compare, but you're like, whoa, yes, it does move a lot slower. But anyways, so he has me do all that stuff, and then he asked me to come into his office, and I can't remember the last time I had been like into an actual office. Like the exam room, yes, but went into his office, the door's open, I sit down, he sits down behind his desk, and he's got his, his arms like on an armrest, and remember his fingers were together just like this, and he's got a cough drop in his mouth, and he just told me, "You've got Parkinson's disease." And I just couldn't believe it. It was just, it's a big diagnosis, and he was so confident. I wish that I would have paid a little bit more attention to just how sure he was, because the second opinion that he referred me to, it didn't work out quite the way that I had thought, basically. But when I asked him for a second opinion, he was fine with it, like almost like gleefully. He told me who to go see, which was somebody at UCSF who, in this guy's opinion, this neurologist's opinion, the person from UCSF that he was sending me to was like this Parkinson's god. So, and he was happy to send me to this person because, of course, this person's also going to see what he sees in me and is going to confirm his diagnosis. But that didn't happen. So I went to see the guy at UCSF, and he diagnosed me with a stress-induced tremor. At the time too, I was like elated. I was like, woohoo, I don't have Parkinson's disease. But then at the same time, the stress-induced tremor diagnosis made no sense. It's like, okay, why can't I wiggle my toes? I mean, maybe neurologically stress can affect, like, paralyze essentially, or mildly paralyze part of your body. I don't know, but it was a stress-induced tremor. It was what he diagnosed me with. And then I went to get the nerve conduction study done, and she was super nice, checking things out. I mean, we had a great conversation, but she recommended that I go back to the UCSF guy, and if he sticks with his stress-induced tremor, she said, go down to Stanford. She said, if I were you, I would rule out MS and then go from there. So I went back to the UCSF person, that god, and he stuck with the stress-induced tremor. So luckily for me, I was able to get into Stanford and to see an MS specialist. He was super nice. I didn't have MS according to him. I think that he thought I had Parkinson's disease, and I think that because he was an MS guy, he didn't feel comfortable saying you've got Parkinson's disease. But what he did do was he gave me they call it the levodopa test or the Cinemet test, which is where they give you a prescription for like the gold standard treatment for Parkinson's. And if you respond to it, that's one of the other things that they use along with everything else to determine if indeed you do have Parkinson's disease. And so he gave me the prescription as well as a referral to see a movement disorder specialist at the movement disorder clinic at Stanford. So I got the prescription, and of course right away, I mean, like it was instant. My body responded. I didn't have any nausea or any of the side effects that can come with it, but I could walk again. I didn't have my little foot drag. I didn't have the tremor or anything. I mean, it was like, whew, you're you again. It was absolutely incredible. And it was incredible at the same time, but this was like, oh, this really does probably mean I've got Parkinson's. And then when I went to see the movement disorder specialist, she indeed at Stanford, it confirmed the first diagnosis, which was Parkinson's disease. She was in agreement with him. She did also offer at the time if I wanted to do a PET test, which at that point I was like, why. It's like, I absolutely know. I agree. I'm not gonna deny it anymore. I have Parkinson's. What I also really didn't think about too was just that if they were different, if the doctors disagreed with each other, then like the confusion and kind of the spiral that you could go down in that confusion and not having an answer. So I didn't really think that clearly about what the possible outcomes were with a second opinion, especially if it was different. That's my story about how I was diagnosed. And what's interesting to me, even to this day, is the second guy, the UCSF God, did not see what the other three symptom-wise saw in me. If you feel comfortable sharing your story, like, was your diagnosis super easy? Was it really complicated like mine? Did it take a while? Are you in the process right now trying to find the answers? Comment below. I would love to hear from you. I do try to respond to every comment. They're appreciated. Give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't, and thank you so much.